Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my channel. I'm Carlene Simons. This is K Art Official Drawing, and here I am finishing some old artworks I never finished. So that's why we are this far along. Now, this character is one of my villain OCs, so enjoy me talking and draw along. If you see my head bobbing, that means I'm listening to music because I cannot work in complete silence. For one reason and another. Another part of myself that is a bit quirky. Yeah, I'm not like other girls. Sorry, just needed to do that. A bit more about this OC. She is made when I was I want to say fan, but I was more obsessed than anything else. She is an OC I created to be a villain in the Avengers universe, where they have Loki as a prisoner in the Avengers Tower while they work together. Bucky is already rescued and is part of the Avengers while working through his PTSD and his hijacking, I shall call it. So yeah, she is part of a duo. I forgot how they called her in the past. A stupid name I know is, I believe it was Eliza. She called Eliza. Now, this OC was the groundwork of another OC I made. More like a goddess theme then. She went good. Now back to this one. She is indeed a villain. That's why the menacing pose. You see one of her old artworks actually here in the corner. That was one of her earlier drawings. I'm redrawing that pose because I have a lot of new knowledge. Now I am also realizing I am missing something. If you see me looking that way, it's because I have another monitor and my artwork is there in the big version. I do the details here. So I also know I don't do too much on the details. It are small things. If you try to zoom in, I can go far with zooming and the pixels are visible. But sometimes people don't do that on a drawing. Don't zoom in. So that's why it is best actually to keep it farther away, like this. To get a whole picture of what you are trying to shade, draw, detail. So you don't do too much. And that's why I'm also looking up at times. Now, further back to her story, she is indeed the villain, but she is a bit strange. As a past of her, she is not originally from the Avengers universe. I never read the comics, so I didn't know there was a multiverse or anything like that. She was more of a character I created as a self-insert. That's why the blue eyes and brown hair. And why she's purple. I have a very big thing with purple and green. Strangely enough, my hair is normally purple, at least little bits. It's not visible anymore. At least not that visible. But yeah, purple is one of my colors. Self-insert be like. So yeah. I always found it funny how self-insert works. You create a character based on your own appearances. Most people give them their own names. I couldn't. Sibling with oh, sorry. I will stumble about on my words, even in my mother tongue. So Same thing with fanfiction. You know the fanfictions with the existing character in the universe when you do an X reader? Most things are written with YN, and I'm always reading. I don't insert my own name in it. I just read it as your name. Your name. Help. I found it's a bit funny. So as this a X reader, I try to find something with a third-person view, so they don't really use the name. I also cannot read a story with I, the first person, because I cannot, for the life of me, insert myself in it. I find it so cringy if I need to self-insert like that. And that's why I try to give my OCs, even if they are self-inserted or based on my own appearances, a name. So this one is Eliza. And the funny thing is, because I was telling you about the multiverse, she is indeed from a different universe, where the Avengers and superpowers do not really exist. They are people indeed in history. Their names exist in her universe, but more along the line of the actors. I'm telling that one. Their names do not exist. Their appearances do. And their stories do. Like, our original universe is based on our own real world. Like, the comics exist, where the Avengers live. So, I always say, oh, the comics are a universe. Whatever you read, every fantasy, every non-fiction, is another universe. If you want to get religious or something with that, you can say it about shifting, where people shift their own subconscious to a different universe. So yeah, something like that. Now, what does she do? Is she just strong while wielding a big ass sword? No. That sword is actually lightweight and is from a very light metal. It's more a conductor for her electronics. She is a smart gal. She invented a time machine. I was at least trying to invent a time machine while living in an abusive household. So yeah. In her abusive household there was the favorite Golden Star child, a younger brother of hers, and he noticed it. That she always disappeared into the basement, into her little workshop she got from her grandparents, who loved her. Yeah, very cliche, I know. And she was like, alright, I'm doing this, I'm trying to be smart. And in the meantime, she was doing that to actually one-up her parents. So they stopped asking her to do the homework of her little brother. Never worked out in her favor though. And one time, while she was finishing the time machine, she was like, alright, let's test this bad boy. So she tested it on first a plant. Her first few tests returned the plant to dust. So she was like, alright, I need to reenact something. And I was always theorizing, if you go back in time, it's easy, your body stays the same. But if you go forward, your body starts aging rapidly. And she noticed that, so she needed to counteract it. Some tests further she did. And then she was like, alright, how to do this on a real living entity. So she found some rats in the sewers and her basement. Don't ask me how. Scientists are weird. I am not one, I'm an artist. But I have scientist tendency and I grew up on a farm. Rats are easy to find. So she got some rats, tested on them. First few tries, they became dust when returning. Then she recalculated, reinserted some data, made some new advancements, and the rats returned normal. Same age, maybe a little bit older, but less. There is always consequences with science. So she was like, good enough. Good enough. I ain't gonna play further with this. And then she was like, alright, I need a human test subject. And she was like, who the heck am I going to ask? And because she didn't know anyone, she was like, I'm going to test this on my fucking self. Like any normal girl will do. So she was like, alright, I'm testing this on myself. And she tested it. First few tries, everything normal. She didn't do it long, but she noticed one thing. She couldn't speak the language. So she was like, I'm not gonna find anything if I don't understand what I'm first of all reading, hearing, and trying to communicate there. So she was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? She figured out an AI system, which created samples and a serum that modified your knowledge. Temporarily. So she needed to inject herself with a little serum that was calculated on the language where she was going. If she was going to the ancient Egyptians, she would go with ancient Arabic. Because Egyptians don't speak Egyptian, they speak Arabic. If she was going to Greek, she was going to speak Old Greek. It's a bit different than Latin. So yes, she did it. She figured everything out, and when it was finally time to go back in time for finals for her research. That was the word. For her research, she decided to prepare everything. Take a long trip this time. She's going to stay there for a year, so she will age a year. But that was the time everything did go wrong. Like I said in the beginning, she has a little brother that is a bit annoying. Spoiled little brat that he is. He was like, no, my sister needs to help me with my homework. So he took it upon himself to actually sabotage a machine, not knowing any of the consequences that would have. He just was like, alright, I didn't want her to do this, I want her to help me. And I don't know why my 16-year-old brain was like, what would power this machine? One cable. I am going to go with it now, because it still works in the story. Kind of, I don't know. So her brother found the cable that connected the machine to the power sources. And lo and behold, the little child could unplug it. And he unplugged it while she was actually being transported. So, a la Danny Phantom, she got some new powers. It's not yet visible on this drawing, but that's because she needs to have something on her shoulder pads. A little hourglass. You already see it here. She is time itself. She could control it. And I always thought some superpowers can be horrible. The reason why she's wearing glass is because she has this power to further time. So if she touches something with all her 5 fingers, a la Shigaraki, they will turn to dust. I'm kind of funny actually if I'm thinking about it. I created this person when I was 14, 16 years old, so around 10 years ago. I didn't watch anime at the time. Yes, I watched certain superhero movies, but never an anime. I watched Wings again, around times. But, so yeah, I created a super villain with the same power as an anime. I later watched it in real life. Aha, I still need to finish Boku no Hero. But oh well. So yeah, she can turn people into dust particles. She can age them rapidly. So rapidly, it actually is quite horrifying to watch someone decompose. It's like that. She can decompose them, she can further their lives. Yeah, Dave. 1 second, 1 minute interval. And she was horrified. But she also noticed something different. She was able to do something different this time. Her time machine was not only a time machine, it created portals to different dimensions, because if you fuck with time, you fuck with the multiverse, and you go to a different dimension. So she found a dimension where superpowers were normalized. At least normalized enough that people didn't immediately start screaming. And she entered the Avengers universe, where first Hydra found her. And they were like, what the heck? Who is this woman? Where did she come from? Blah blah blah. Hydra was skeptical, is always skeptical, is always a bit cautious about things. But I do not trust it at first. But trust you must if you want a powerful fucking ally. And they started trusting her. They trusted her with the fact that they had Bucky Barnes, a man that was notorious in her own dimension. She knew this man, but not in the way you think. She knew him as her ancestor that died in the war. And she was like, oh my god, my whole fucking family is here. No, because Bucky Barnes never had children, so he couldn't have created her family. She virtually did not exist in that universe because he never had children. But now she did. Was it fate? Was it anything? And Hydra was like, alright, let's do tests on her. Let's do DNA tests and everything, and they figured it out. She was of blood. So they were like, we can use this. We can use her bond, her familiar ties to Bucky Barnes, and create a alibi for her. So they did. That alibi was later discovered by Steve, and he wanted a closer bond with whatever his friend was doing. And she needed to tell him that her parents were Bucky Barnes' children, while she was a grandchild. Because Bucky had a child with a woman by accident. Because if you fuck around, you need to live with the consequences. So use protection. Use protection. And she really liked this alibi because it was true. She is indeed a descendant of the Booker Barnes line. So she killed the name Barnes. Eliza Barnes. Virtually non-existent. And because Bucky originally died in the World Wars, yes, he was never told. The woman was like, no, I ain't living my dramas. I will keep the child a secret. I don't care. So she raised her children. They became unknown to the public and later on alive. When Eliza was running a bookstore and Steve walked in, he recognized the facial features of a Barnes and realized he is indeed a child, or at least a descendant. So he invited her to Avengers Tower, all according to Hydra's plan. So yeah. Everything went good for Hydra. They had a leak. They had an inside person. They were going to take over the Avengers. And I kind of did. SHIELD was theirs. And I was a depraved little teenager. Because I was not like, oh, this, that. No, she went all the way. She made sure they never suspected her. Oh, give me a sec. She went all the way. She made sure she never was suspected. And when Hydra was forcefully taking over the Avengers Tower, she turned her back on them. She killed several close SHIELD agents to the Avengers. And she was officially labeled as the villain. They never trusted her again. And she disappeared afterwards. Now, there's a lot more between the time when she entered the Avengers Tower for the first time and when she actually started her murder spree. She became known as Time Dilation because she was a villain, and also being a villain, she became the comic villain that did rampaging, murder sprees, and all that kind of stuff. So yes, she was already running around killing people before they captured her, before they recognized her. And lo and behold, she became a villain. So that was this video. It wasn't much drawing. I didn't finish it again because my attention span is going to shit right now. But that was this drawing video. If you want to later draw on again, tell me. I have a lot more work I need to finish. Follow me on my social media links below. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.